Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:07, and when you hear Stevie Wonder, you know that it's time to get fired up for your morning. Coming up in 1 hour, we're going to have Chris Plant joining us, and in 30 minutes, it's James Rosen of Newsmax. I'm Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Julie, happy 8 o'clock hour. Here we go.
Yay.
We're flying along now. And I want to talk about the Virginia school systems for a moment, because we told you last week that Governor Youngkin made good on his campaign pledge, which was to include parents in the conversation about how the schools should operate, what our policy should be, what the curriculum should be, what books should be in the library, and I don't know, who can use girls' private spaces like bathrooms and locker rooms, and who can compete in girls' sports. And after going through a painstaking process, listening to the community, taking feedback, listening to parents, listening to educators, he came up with these new model policies that included the policy that in Virginia schools, women should compete in sports against other biological women, not people whose gender identity is female or woman, or girl, but actual biological women, right? Seems only fair. You know, we just talked about Katie Ledecky and the incredible achievements she had, and it is incredible.
Yeah.
But we need to have a reality check here. Against most men who compete at the same level, she's an also-ran. I'm sorry, that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, this is an exception like we've never seen, but the reality is men have, larger chest capacity, they have longer wingspan, they have bigger hearts, they have bigger lungs. I mean, I encourage everybody, and not sorry for the plug here, but go to IWF. We just updated our sports report, and that has all those kinds of facts and figures in there that make winning this debate, and we have to win this debate,
that's right,
possible. So go check out the sports report at IWF.org.
And Governor Youngkin and the Virginia Department of Education did nothing untoward. It wasn't arbitrary. It was absolutely reasonable. And he put forth these model policies. And we said last week, all of these school boards in Northern Virginia, when Ralph Northam put out policies with regard to COVID, with regard to gender, with regard to multiple things, when parents complained, the school board members said, there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied. We have to follow what Richmond tells us to do. Now, we called BS on that at the time. We said, that's not true. What's the point of running for elected office and being a member of the school board if you only serve to rubber stamp what the state tells you? We knew that was a lie. But now the lie is exposed even further. The hypocrisy is palpable. There is an entity in Virginia that is not a government entity. It's called Virginia School League. And basically the Virginia High School League is the sports authority for Virginia athletics. And they basically oversee it. They're the it's like the NCAA, right? They're not a government entity, but they police basically the policies and rules for Virginia high school sports. And they have determined that they will maintain their policy that allows so-called transgender student athletes to participate on the sport teams that match their gender identity. And in the write-up at the Washington Post, they go to great pains to point out that each individual school district currently has the right to go one way or the other. They can adhere to the model policies, or they could defy the model policies. But by stepping out like this, the Virginia High School League has sent the signal to Fairfax, to Loudoun, as if they needed the signal, to Loudoun County, to Alexandria City, to Arlington, to all of these various entities, that they can go right ahead. And I guarantee you, these gutless wonders in the Fairfax County School Board in Arlington, Loudoun, they're going to say, well, listen, we're just adhering to what the Virginia High School League has done.
Exactly.
They're never going to take ownership of this.
Yes.
They're never going to say, you're damn right we want boys in the locker room with your daughters.
Yeah.
You're damn right we want boys to have a competitive edge over your daughters, because we think boys who are identifying as women are actually, they carry more virtue and are worthy of more higher treatment than girls who were born girls.
You're absolutely right, though. This is the same playbook as masks. Remember, during masking, they said, I'm just following you. Like you said, I'm just following what Governor Northam told us to do. And then when Governor, when Youngkin overturned it, they said, no, we can't do it. And they sued. They actually spent district money. 7 districts in the Northern Virginia area actually spent money to probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to sue the. Of course, it was the lawyer, anyone who was in charge of that case immediately said, "Okay, this isn't going to go anywhere." Yeah. But the bottom line is this is the hypocrisy at play, and nobody calls them out on it. I mean, let's look at the Washington Post. Will they ever, any of their education reporters ever call them out on this? No, they won't, and that's why they do it, because they can get away with it.
The organization regulates sports for 315 high schools across Virginia. That's the Virginia High School League. Technically, they do not have a role in advising local school boards whether they need to adopt these policies or not. The Virginia High School League is not part of the Virginia Department of Education, so they do not have to adhere to the model policies put forth. But it certainly will. Not only will it have influence in what certain school boards do, but it will certainly be a fig leaf of corroboration and cover that these elected officials were utilized, especially those in Loudoun who were facing re-election. Loudoun voters pay very close attention to what your school board members do on this. It's not just whether they adopt the policies of Governor Youngkin or reject the policies of Governor Youngkin. It's what they give you as an excuse. If they step up and they say, no, we're doing this because we think that the rights and the benefits of a boy identifying as a girl outweigh the rights of an actual biological girl, if they will actually say that, you can disagree with them, but at least have some level of respect for their misguided convictions. But if they step up in front of you, Loudoun County voters, and they say, listen, I agree with you. I think girls' sports should be exclusive to girls, but there's nothing I can do because the Virginia High School League, which regulates the sports, they've gone ahead and put this policy forth, so we have to match it. They're lying to you. They have no courage, they have no convictions, they have no values, and they certainly don't deserve your vote.
Well said, Larry.
Thank you. I get angry about these things, and I'm trying to stay measured about it.
No, I get it.
And by the way, at the same time, in the same breath, I should make the positive assertion. School board members, if you are an elected official right now, if you are wringing your hands over this, whether for political reelection purposes or because you truly have an ethical problem with it, and I'm speaking mostly to school board members in Prince William County and Loudoun County because I've already lost hope for Fairfax and Arlington. If you are really wringing your hands, you're not sure what to do right now, you don't have to follow what the Virginia High School League has said. This is they have no control,
no authority,
power, no authority, no influence over you. Your governor has now given you cover. Your governor has already staked a claim on this. He has gone through the process. And by the way, Governor Youngkin right now is the most popular governor in America. His poll ratings just came in. So even if you don't have any principles or moral convictions on this issue, if you're just a political hack who happens to be a school board member, it's not too late to actually jump on board with what parents want, what voters want, what the governor has done that has given him great political clout. And oh, by the way, it just happens to be the right thing to do.
That's right.
By way of the girls who go to the schools that you have jurisdiction over. Do the right thing on this. There. All right. Now I'm done. I'm going to get off my soapbox, and I'm going to tell you what time it is. Do you know what?
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
Well, the crossover buddy cop movie we've all been waiting for, starring Tucker Carlson and Ice Cube, is it Ice Cube or Ice T? Which ice is it? Ice Cube,
Ice
yeah.
Cube.
Has finally come to fruition. I've been waiting. I wanted a remake of 48 Hours with Ice Cube and Tucker Carlson. Or maybe Beverly Hills Cop 5 with Ice Cube and Tucker Carlson. But instead, we just got the 10th episode of Tucker Carlson's semi-regular Twitter streaming video show, which is really just either an interview or a monologue.
Yeah, I love it.
But this one was a on-location interaction with Ice Cube, mostly talking about the vaccine. Because, Ice Cube has been sort of red-pilled here by people trying to cancel him, and he turned down millions of dollars worth of TV and movie projects because he did not get vaccinated. So here's Tucker Carlson talking to Ice Cube, of all people.
Why wouldn't you take the vax? You had a direct order to take it. You were told to take it.
Yeah, I'm not real good with direct orders, but on a whole nother note,
but it was a command. I mean, they told. I'm sorry, they told you. I mean, they couldn't have been clearer about it.
Yeah, it was pretty clear. Did you take it?
Of course not.
Yeah, no, it wasn't ready. You know, it was 6 month, kind of rush job, and I didn't feel safe.
But they told you were safe.
I know what they said. I know what they said, and I heard them. I heard them loud and clear. But it's not their decision. There's no repercussions if they're wrong. But I get all the repercussions if they're wrong.
Was it a tough call for you?
No, it wasn't a tough call. I wanted to be an example for my kids. Really make sure they didn't take it either. Show them that I wanted to stand on my convictions and that I was willing, to lose $9 million and more, because we've probably lost more, since then.
The idea is that people who stand on their convictions are heroes. They're brave. They have principles. They're the people we look to for inspiration. But in this case, with this decision and these principles, you were not hailed as a hero.
No.
You were attacked.
Sure was. And the interview went on. What's interesting to me is that no one else wanted to interview Ice Cube. He's been on NBC. He's made tons of money for NBC with Law and Order for years and years and years. But they didn't want to interview him. They didn't want to talk to him. It's a great story. It's a compelling story.
He's very inconvenient for the left. This reminds me of when Dr. Fauci and Mayor Bowser went around in the D.C. streets to sort of combat vaccine hesitancy, and they got people to come out on their stoops. And there were a couple people who really schooled Fauci and the mayor. And it was just, you could tell that they were just like, this is not going as planned. This is not going as planned. So people like Ice Cube are not going to find the media very interested in him, because these are the that video I mentioned with Fauci and Bowser, that was sort of, unexpected, I think, for them.
Yep.
And so they're certainly not going to let this guy talk.
By the way, also there's another reason why Fox News didn't like Tucker Carlson sort of having the direct command over the content. This is the kind of content Fox didn't want you to see, apparently. Right. A little bit more of this interaction with Tucker and Ice Cube in just a moment. It's good stuff. All right, and by the way, I told you I get my Ice rappers mixed up. Ice-T was on Law & Order. Ice Cube was not. Thank you very much, Michael Shelton, for correcting me. Here we go, more with Ice Cube and Tucker.
I never told anyone not to get vaccinated publicly. That was never my message to the world. I didn't even want people to know whether I got vaccinated or not. I was pretty upset that even came out, because I was just going to quietly, just not take it and deal with the consequences as they came.
Do you know anyone who was injured by the vaccine?
I do. And they suffer every day, and it's hard to watch. Suffering in silence is not the answer all the time. Sometimes you gotta let people know what's going on so you can actually move the needle. Choose to be vocal. If it's true, why can't I say it?
Well, you can't say it because it is true.
There it is. Now that's the problem with the world today.
There's no penalty for lying. No one's ever punished for lying. It's only telling the truth that gets you in trouble.
Ain't that something?
That's true.
Yeah, that is so true.
Ain't that something? And yeah, this is something that Tucker's been saying repeatedly in media appearances and on his new streaming program platform, and it's true. Nobody ever gets in trouble for lying. Think of all the people who have lied under oath to Congress, the politicians who have lied to you. Think of Anthony Fauci and the
Think
lies
of what
that he
Kamala
told.
Harris has done this week.
That's right. You think of all of the lies, nobody gets it. But who gets punished? Who loses their job? Who gets canceled in our cancel culture? Who gets removed from the public sphere? Who loses their job? Who loses their income? People who tell the truth. We're reaching a tipping point here. We're reaching a tipping point, and it's good that Tucker Carlson continues to have the wherewithal to be able to do what he does. Not all of us can. We do what we can. We do our best. But it's good that people have as much freedom as they do. I admire them. Coming next, James Rosen, Newsmax, next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Flying through this Wednesday morning. Unbelievable. I can't believe it's already 8:37. That means 30 minutes from now, Chris Plant will take over for your listening pleasure. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. And speaking of listening pleasure, we are always delighted to be engaged with the mellifluous tones of one James Rosen, Chief White House Correspondent for Newsmax. But let's not forget, he's the author of Scalia, Rise to Greatness, 1936-1986, the first in a series of, I believe, 12 volumes on Antonin Scalia. Mr. Rosen, Jimmy Rose, thanks for joining us.
And it will be made into a PBS series called I, Scalia's.
Ah, very nice. Will there be any stuttering involved there? Will Derek Jacobi be cast?
Thank you for explaining my dated reference. Great to be with you, my friend.
James, it appears as though the walls are closing in on the Biden presidency. I mean, how many questions about Hunter Biden, the Biden family, the Secret Service, the dog, the FBI, the 1023? How many of these questions can Karine Jean-Pierre deflect and say we got no comment?
Look, it's possible President Biden could use command to great effect. There's a history of dogs being invoked to maximum political effect at the national level. We hearken back to Richard Nixon and the Checkers speech of 1952 and the burgeoning medium of television. That seems doubtful. I will give you that at this point. I don't think much goodwill out there for Commander exists in light of these recent reports of excessive biting.
Not at all. About as much goodwill as the football team named after the dog.
I'll have to check what approval ratings the dog has on RCP on the aggregate of the polls. I don't know that I'd say the walls are closing in, but I would say that in most basic terms, we have a president who is standing for re-election and whom all the major polls, when aggregated so that you're not just looking at one snapshot of polling, appear to indicate that the American people are gravely dissatisfied with his performance.
Today, Hunter Biden is expected to have his court date where he will officially plead guilty. This guilty plea was floated about a month ago and has been scrutinized to a pretty high degree. And we've now learned that his lawyers actually called the clerk of the court earlier and pretended to be Republican lawyers for the Judiciary Committee, trying to get information about how much of the IRS whistleblower's testimony is in front of the judge's eyes. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, but this seems like that would put this plea deal in jeopardy in any other case, James.
I mean, it sounds like an episode of Boston Legal or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Serious amateur hour. And I believe it resulted in an official rebuke from the presiding judge.
Oh, a rebuke. That'll leave a mark.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it'll be sufficient to derail the basic terms of the plea seems remote. And, of course, there's two aspects to today's likely plea bargain by Hunter Biden. One is that he will plead guilty to two, I think, misdemeanor tax violations. And secondly, that he will enter a pretrial diversion program on the weapons charge. And as a result of all of this, he will be spared any incarceration. There's nothing on the horizon, despite the attempted legal intervention of GOP congressional members, that appears that it will derail the basic terms of the agreement as we understand them.
James, we always like to get your kind of read of inside the room, and I feel like the Democrats in Congress are in defensive mode. They keep saying things like, "There's nothing here. There's nothing connects Biden. There's nothing. There's nothing here. There's nothing that's been done wrong." It's sort of this broken record. But what is it like in the press room with Karine Jean-Pierre? Have you noticed? Is there more tension? Are people taking this stuff seriously? I'd love to get kind of a sense of what it's like in the room.
Well, first of all, it's marginally more comfortable in the room now that the White House press briefing area and the surrounding work areas for the White House press corps have been freshly renovated.
Nice.
Made to look almost exactly the same, but with a bit more legroom here and there.
Oh, good.
And better access to outlets, for sure. But you ask if there's greater tension in the White House press briefing room as a result of the drip, drip, drip of the Hunter Biden story. And the drip, 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 we should point out, is taking a specific form, which is a drip, drip, drip of documentary evidence, not just testimony or hearsay allegations or what have you. And I would say that we have noticed more members of the first few rows of the White House press briefing room posing Hunter Biden-related questions more frequently. It's not just a lonely cast of 3 or 4 voices closer to the back of the room. One particular thing that strikes my eye is that Peter Baker of the New York Times, who's sort of the unofficial dean of the White House press corps and a friend, posted on his Twitter feed this week that in response to a particular question about the Hunter Biden case from Jillian Turner of Fox News, Karine Jean-Pierre said in one breath that nothing had changed about her answer to the question of whether the president had ever spoken to his son about his foreign business dealings, which Mr. Biden long ago denied that he ever did. And at one moment after saying that nothing had changed, in the next breath, Karine Jean-Pierre gave a changed answer and said, as we've said, the president was never in business with his son, which is a different goalpost, if you will. And Peter Baker tweeted that out and made reference to it. And so that's just one example, I think, of what you're seeing where the particular nature of drip, drip, drip here, which is documentary form, I think is piquing the interest of greater numbers of news outlets in that room.
James Rosen, Newsmax White House correspondent. Always good to talk to you, sir. And again, the book is, you continue to do great promotion and great discussions about your fantastic and seminal book on. You're not
going to mention the T-shirt you're wearing right now, Larry?
I am wearing a Beatles T-shirt as we speak. It's true.
Yes.
Early or late?
I would say mid, actually. I mean, it's just the logo. It's just the Beatles, the lettering treatment that you would see on Ringo's bass drum.
We're thinking about you this
the
morning.
Elongated T.
That is correct.
Yes.
I have the official elongated T. That is correct.
That's just because you're tall.
Amazing.
Hey, listen, anybody who knows me knows
much,
that I have an elongated T.
God. Let it go. Let it go.
What? Thank
you, James.
You make it sound bad. Yeah, James. Thank you.
Are we still on? Is this thing going out?
Yes.
I ask myself that every day. Thank you, James. Great
Ciao.
stuff as always. It doesn't suck to be Tom Brady. Not only is he the most celebrated quarterback in professional football history, and also a graduate of the University of Michigan Wolverines football program, I'll have you know. Well, why do you have to change your mood when we're in the middle of a segment? It's like...
That's great.
Thank you.
Super.
He was also married for several years to a supermodel, Heidi Klum, as you know.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's now enjoying his retirement.
Giselle.
Excuse me, Heidi Klum. Good God.
Supermodels on the brain.
See, again, it's Giselle Bundchen. I'm so sorry. Again, I am fighting a fever.
The wrong skinny lady.
I mentioned this earlier. I have been fighting a fever and a bug in my system, and it does affect my my recall sometimes. I apologize.
When I'm sick, I get my supermodels confused.
Right, exactly. Because like all the supermodels I have to stay in focus with. He's now enjoying his retirement and his new single life with a brand new supermodel.
Yes.
It's like, that's the thing. When you're Tom Brady, it's like, which supermodel shall we have today?
Yes. I remember
the weird thing here, though.
One gajillionaire was asked, why do you only date supermodels? And his answer was like, because I can.
Exactly.
Because I can.
Thank you. Because I'm Tom freaking Brady. Thank you very much. The weird thing about this, though, is when you travel in those circles, sometimes, these women have a bit of a history.
Oh,
and
Larry.
And he's with Irina Shayk, I believe is how you pronounce your last name, who is the ex-girlfriend of Bradley Cooper. In fact, bore Bradley Cooper's baby.
That's right.
And Bradley Cooper was asked about this, and he says, that doesn't bother me. I have no problem with that. Oh, are you kidding? She's yesterday's news. Guy,
he didn't say that. He said it just doesn't bother him.
Unbothered.
He's moved on.
I would be bothered if one of my exes...
He's got many supermodels. Bradley Cooper has many supermodels to choose from now.
I guess that's true.
So
See, I would be bothered if my ex was with Tom Brady.
Okay.
But then again, if I were Bradley Cooper, I probably wouldn't be bothered by it. So that's the thing. It's hard to relate to this story. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I can't relate to the story at all.
Yeah.
But
right.
yes, everyone's moving on.
Here's something.
To be honest with you, I was hoping Tom Brady would get back together with Giselle because they have kids. That's good for kids. No. Although she seemed really strict on the food
wacky,
stuff.
And he's having a great time.
Yeah.
By the way, you know who else is moving on? Harry and Meghan, apparently.
No.
Yeah, they're thinking of moving out of their secluded Montecito mansion right next door to Oprah Winfrey. Apparently, it's not big or swanky enough. A Hope Ranch realtor told the Santa Barbara News Press that the office continues to field calls from concerned longtime residents who fear the couple and their security team will disturb the peace of the quiet community. So they're going and they're checking out various homes, and immediately the neighbors call up and say, "Oh, no, we don't want these two in our neighborhood.
No, we don't want to
This will ruin everything."
Those people and their rescue chickens. No thanks.
Locals are worried. People are not happy. That's the word from around town. They want them to stay in Montecito and not draw that kind of attention to Hope Ranch. They're looking at moving to Hope Ranch, which is even more private and more secluded. So there you go. Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you just move to the Yukon? Yukon is part of Canada. That's part of the Commonwealth. You won't be disturbed by anyone.
Why don't you just move back to the grounds of Windsor, where no press can just wander around?
I don't think King Charles wants them anywhere near there.
Good point.
8:52. That's a wrap. Julie Gunlock, thanks for joining us today.
It was fun.
And break a leg to our colleague Patrice Onwuka, who is just about an hour away from testifying on Capitol Hill. She's a stud. Speaking of studs, here comes Chris Plant. Hey,
Patrice is testifying on Capitol Hill. What guy? I'm going to have to learn more about that. Listen, lots of Biden family stuff today, and Hunter Biden in court to plead on his sweetheart deal that his dad got him, and his lawyers tampering with the court, and